Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to week 16. Is that what we're even on? I don't even know if I wrote it down this week, but either way we're here for, yes, it's week 16. We're here for another weekly wrap up, and there actually won't be another one for 2 weeks, so the next one will be like a mega wrap up, also because this one had some complications, so we only have 8 books to talk about this week, but some of them are like the best to be talking about, so that will make up for it, right? There are some highly anticipated arcs that I read this week, and it was amazing. But 2 things happened, just to catch you up with my life and what was going on, is I went to go visit my sister. I was planning to do that, very excited to do it. My brother-in-law travels for work quite a bit, so, you know, I make my way home to see her whenever I can. And we had more snow, which we all know how everyone's feeling about that at this point. And then when I happened to be there, I'll spare you the gory details, but me and 2 of my nieces got a stomach bug, which followed me home to Fargo and was just delightful. It was delightful. But I did reread a couple of my favorite books, as well as the books that I was rereading and annotating for patrons this week. But because I've been ill, and then because I'm also preparing for why I'll be gone next weekend, which we'll get to in just a second, I didn't get through as much as I meant to, but you know what, that's okay, because I know to you guys the amount that I read is always a lot, and you guys are always like, what you say isn't a lot is my whole month, and I get that, but it's also like, I have expectations for myself, and I want to be reading all the cool books that everyone's getting to, but when I have, you know, stacks of required reading that I have to get to, it can get in the way of things, and that's not as much fun, right? It's not as much fun at all. But yeah, where am I going next week? I've mentioned this quite a few times now, but I'm going to a book signing in northern Iowa, which is about 5 hours drive from me. I'm going with one of my best friends, and we're taking a weekend to go to this. It is the same weekend as a Polycon. No, I'm not going to that awesomeness. But to be honest, I'll tell you right now, this little book signing that I'm going to was only a $5 entry ticket. And getting into a Polycon is intense. And I didn't get into Book Bonanza or a Polycon. And hopefully I'll be able to go to Wanderlust later this year, because I really enjoyed that one. But your girl just had to pay her taxes, and being able to afford those type of trips are just above my pay grade. Maybe someday when the channel has 50K, we'll be able to squeeze that, but not yet. Not quite yet. But this event is at a casino in northern Iowa. It's called Northern Iowa Book Bash. The ticket for entry is only $5. And Pam Godwin is going to be at this one. That's kind of what piqued my interest. I saw she was going, and I was like, oh, Northern Iowa. That can't be that far away from me. I bet I could drive there. And sure enough, it's not an unreasonable amount, especially because I'll be splitting it up, because I'm going to go home to Pillager first, and then meet my friend there, and then we'll go, which will be amazing. It's going to be great. But Pam Godwin's going to be there, Jennifer Hartman, Julie Ann, Annika Martin, who's the other one I just read, Lena Hendricks. So I'm very excited to go see them. I've got my books pre-ordered. I'm ready to go. I'll be vlogging that probably for my patrons, since my friend Shauna will be with me. She doesn't really like to be on the main channel, so that'll probably be a Patreon exclusive. But very excited to do that. But that being said, I'll be gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and not getting back till Sunday, so I'm not going to come home and film a weekly wrap-up right away. I'll do a double week wrap-up the next week, which will be awesome. Those are sometimes fun, to be able to have like a Saturday where I'm not stressed about getting my wrap-up done, and then be able to do like a mega wrap-up for you guys is always great. But yeah, we're going to dive right into these, because there were some fun ones. So the first book that I finished for this week was Goddess by S.R. Watson and Ryan Stacks. So this was the G in the ABCs of Love that I'm doing with my friend Jackie, and my friend Becky has basically joined the read along with us as well. And this one, I won't go into too much detail because there will be a live show for this, which is actually going to be tonight, the night that I'm filming it. But you can go to First Lady Reads channel to be able to see it. I would love to encourage people over to her channel because you guys, if you love me, you're going to love Jackie. She talks so in-depthly and intensely about the books that she reads. And she reads a bit more of a variety than I do as well. But she's amazing. So definitely check her out. But this book, this one, Fitting a G, what to say about this one real quick without going too much. So the scenario is we have a heroine who's on the run from her abusive fiance. He's involved in organized crime. She isn't. So this isn't a like mafia romance at all. She actually is involved against her will in this. And so she's made a run for it. And she basically is hitchhiking her way away. Like she has no final destination, and she ends up getting picked up by this guy named Huxley, and let's just say he knew to look for her. Is that good or bad? You'll have to read to find out. Honestly, in my opinion, this is my favorite one I've read in this ABCs of Love. Like, I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars, and it was a 3 on the Spice scale. So for more about it, definitely check out our live show. Then I read a book that was just kind of out of the blue for me. I just came across it in an interesting way. I read Preferential Treatment by Heather Greer. So Heather Greer, I think I have the, do I have the book right here? No, I moved it. But Heather Greer is the author who writes, My throat is not dry, but it's deciding it wants to be weird. We're going to be taking lots of drinks today. I'm sorry. I don't know what's up. She wrote those paranormal romances that I said reminded me of Twilight fanfic. She also has some erotic contemporary. And so this one popped up last week when I was doing my review for Stray by Daisy Jane, which had a submissive hero, and this one popped up as a, if you like this, try this. And I was like, heck yes, I would like to read more, especially because when I saw what the like tropes were for this, besides just submissive hero, I got really excited. This is kind of like a reverse, like, I'll explain, like this is a reverse dynamic, like 50 Shades of Grey, basically. So our Mikhail, who is our businessman, is actually the boss of our heroine, and he notices her when they interact. For some reason, he usually wouldn't interact with her role at the company, but they do for some reason. And he notices kind of her like natural dominance and just kind of her instinct, like, you're not going to push me around, like kind of business. He's not the one pushing her around, by the way, either. Someone else like is, and she's like, fuck no, back off type of attitude. And so he feels attracted to her, and this is kind of unusual for him. Like, usually he gives in to his needs every so often, and he will find, you know, a professional who's used to doing these things, and so he can be turned on by the scenario of being a submissive because he enjoys that, but it's usually for short term, and he doesn't stick with the person long because he doesn't want too many feelings entangled, you know, all that jazz that the broody billionaires do. But he sees this innate connection with her, or feels this innate attraction to her, and so he invites her to his home, offers her an NDA, and explains what he's looking for. Now, she's never done this fully because she's always felt like she had to hide her more dominant nature, and not as in like she straight up hasn't like done most of this stuff, but you know, she's like, I've read a lot of books and I have felt those desires. I've just never had anyone to act them out with because men aren't interested in me doing those things. And he's like, well, I would like to pay you to be my mistress and to do these things to me. And so they enter into a deal where he is going to pay her to be his mistress. But of course, feelings get in the way. So this one had age gap, sex deal. That's what I call, like, I do fake relationship / sex deal as like, but it's not a fake relationship. It's paid relationship. Office romance, BDSM, submissive hero for this. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It was a 4 on the Spice scale. Also, the kinks involved. There's a lot of edging. She very much liked to edge him. There's butt plugs and like a little bit of anal play for him. There was never fully like pegging in this one, even though I really wanted there to be, but there definitely was prostate play for him, and that was good. Impact play, degradation, restraints. But what I still loved is that he still had that like alpha presence, but he likes to be submissive. So it never felt like he was a beta or a weak male just because he wanted to be submissive. And I love that. That is the like sweet spot for me. And it's why submissive heroes are hard for me to get. Especially where like he's still the older, more experienced person, but he like knows what he wants. And I really enjoyed that about this. I really do. They also love playing chess together. I love watching that dynamic too. So there was a lot that I loved about it. A couple things that were difficult for it is that the heroine has a real disdain for wealth. And that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with people not liking billionaires and millionaires. But two things. When I'm in a billionaire romance, I'm not a huge fan of people shitting on billionaires. Like, in real life, I don't care if we want to hate on the, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care about that. But in my book, when it's a billionaire romance, I don't like the hero being shamed for being a billionaire. And there's part of this game between them two where he likes to pay her money. Like, he likes providing for her. And so there are parts of this where she like gets him to spend his money on certain things, not just on her, but on like causes and stuff. And he'll like pretend to resist, and she'll be like, you're going to do what your mistress says or I'm going to punish you, like stuff like that. And like, that was cool. But there also was like this disdain she had for his money. And the fact is like Mikhail was an orphan. He grew up without anything. It was his education and his savviness that got him where he was. And she acts like he lucked into it all when he worked his ass off for it. And so I ended up being a bit soured by the heroine in those aspects, because it's like, you like that he's buying things for you. You like that he's giving money to these causes you pick, but you are disdainful for the very thing that you like about him. And it was frustrating for me. So I would have loved this if the author had played that dynamic either a little less, like a little more subtle, because it was just a weird combination. Like, this woman is happy to have him be paying to have sex with her and happy to be using his money to, you know, he's getting her whatever she wants, but she also has a disdain for him having it. And I just don't like that type of hypocrisy. Like, that's literally hypocrisy to me when I'm reading it. And I'm like, well, then just have her not be able to be bought by his money, and that she just likes fucking him so much, or else have her not have a problem with it, because I didn't like that, and it took away from this story, which wasn't even a super long one to begin with, but her drama over him having money, I was like, bitch, we don't believe it because you're getting it. So, all right, moving on. Next, I continued finally with the Ward Sister series with reading Faked. Those of you who've been following along with me, I read the Washington Wolf series last month. I think I read like all 3 of them. And then I actually read the first Ward Sister book like last year. I read it a long time ago. It was on AnyPlay, like a lot of Carla Sorensen's books are, so you can listen to those for free there. And now that I had read the Washington Wolves, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to the Ward Sisters, and I read Faked. And Faked, y'all, was a hot mess. I have since learned from friends who are like big fans of like how this book was changed in the home stretch kind of thing, like things really got shook up to be a sister's best friend's brother scenario. But it just had so many coincidences and things that like all relied on coincidence for it to happen, that it was almost too much. Like, I can suspend a lot of disbelief in a romance book. Like, okay, hello, girl who reads spider romances. Like, I can get on with it. But when you're in a contemporary and then you just like go so crazy with it, you start to lose me a little bit. And also, there wasn't a single thing that was unpredictable or surprising about this book. And though Carla Sorensen's writing is still sweet and fun, and listening to the audiobook is always pleasant, she gets great narrators. If I were to strip that away from it and look at this story, it makes no sense. Okay, so there's twin sisters, and her one twin sister, so Claire's twin sister has a best friend. Claire has a crush on that best friend, Finn. She has liked him for a long time, but she has never made a move for it. Finn's family is pretty wealthy and well-to-do. He also has an older stepbrother named Bauer, who is a snowboarder and skateboarder and a bad boy, but he's also, like, he's in sports, but in that kind. He's a professional snowboarder. And Finn is supposed to bring Claire's sister along to this party because they're connected with the football world, and it's going to like help his family like get some donations for a foundation that they run. Whole big setup, blah blah blah. Claire's sister doesn't want to go, so she asks Claire to twin swap with her, but then Finn gets sick, and so Bohrer ends up going. Bohrer immediately knows that this is Claire and not her twin sister, even though he hasn't like seen her many times, and he ends up being super attracted to her, and then they end up in a fake dating scenario, and it's a forced proximity scenario, and then he freaks out when he finds out that she used to like his brother because he has an inferiority complex with his brother, who's loved more by his father and stepmother. Like, it had some sweet moments, like, again, the forced proximity. There was a snowstorm happening in April, which I did oddly sympathize with. But the way that the third act conflict happened, I know I go on and on about it, but I'm sick of third act conflicts that I can call from the minute that the conflict is introduced. Like, and what I mean by that is the minute that any possible conflict shows up on the page and I'm like, well, it's obviously going to be he freaks out when he finds out about his brother. But her liking his brother is such an insignificant thing. Like, it really, really is. The heroine definitely wants a chance with his brother at some point. Like, she wants that. But when she doesn't get it and she falls for him instead, she's totally in on him. Like, she doesn't even think about his brother anymore. And he can't let it go so much that he like embarrasses her in front of her family. I was like, no. So I had originally given this one 4 stars because I was like, oh, this isn't horrible. It was still really readable. But after talking about it with one of my friends, I was like, Carla Sorensen can do better. Like, she can do better than this. And so I was irritated. So it ended up with a 3-star for me. And this one was a 2 on the spice scale. But I will say that, I mean, I'm still continuing this series, no doubt, and I want to catch up so that I can read her other series that like connect into this world. So I'm going to keep going. But this one was my least favorite that I've read so far. All right, then I got to read an arc for His Curvy Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. Yeah, I was highly anticipating this, and even though I had so many arcs drop on me all at once, I had to dive into this one. This one is book 4. Yes, 4 in the 5-pack series. This one is about Alex and Flora. They are in one of the other packs that we like haven't been in much yet. And of course, as it is in this series, like, the heroines are being treated horribly. That is how this series starts. There is always a male who rejects his mate, whether for a good reason or a bad reason, or he's just stupid. And then he has to grovel for the rest of the book. So if you love groveling, if you love shifters, if you love knots, if you love a lot of like angst in a paranormal, like this has it all. And I'll tell you from the front, I gave this one 4 stars. It's a, what is my spice rating for it? But I gave it 4 stars. It's a 2.5 on the spice scale. I knew that there would be content warnings that would be specific to me for this one because it is His Curvy Rejected Mate. The content warnings are right there, y'all. So this is no critique on the fact that Kate C. Wells chose to use these like tropes and things in this story. She is telling a good story. It is very powerful and it is moving, and like I definitely cried. But as someone who has dealt with fat phobia and fat shaming for most of my life up until up until I was in my mid-20s, and I don't give a fuck what people think about how I look, but until, you know, very recently, my like own shame about that stuff. This is hard, okay? This book is hard to read. It isn't just a fat phobia of like where you can just brush it off. Like, there is tough stuff, and there's the heroine thinking stuff about herself. The only one who doesn't think any of those things about her is the hero. And that is his redeeming quality, and it's really beautiful. The thing is, of course, he is a grump. He is quiet. He is watchful. He's in a precarious position within the pack, and he's very aware of it. And so he doesn't let his emotions show. He doesn't let his feelings for Flora show because, number one, he isn't sure that she's his mate, because apparently in this world, nobody knows their mate until they know. Like, it's so goddamn frustrating how nobody recognizes their mate ever. Like, I don't know. I prefer the type where you either like know as soon as you see the person, or like as soon as you go through puberty, you know, like I just like those. I like when they know right away. And with this one, like they didn't know. And then when they know, of course, they find out in a very dramatic way. And the hero also finds out something bad at the same time. And he reacts poorly. And this happens in all the books in this series. Like the hero reacts poorly when he finds out they're mates. He is either scared or they're in a dangerous position, or he just flat out does reject it, like in the first one. But this hero finds out some bad news, and they find out that they're mates in front of everyone, and it's rough. And the heroine, who is awesome, decides right then and there, like, I am not going to stay in this pack and be treated this way. So she decides to leave. But now the hero knows he's her mate, and he can't just let his mate leave. Like, it'd be awful. So there's him groveling and following after her, making sure she's safe, trying to convince her to come home, that like they'll be okay there. And she's like, you don't understand how I've been treated since I was little. Like, you don't get it. And because you don't get it, you don't understand how painful it is for you to ask me to just go back and deal with it. Because the wolves, like, they are cruel. Like, a lot of them are cruel unless they're not. Again, don't know why. And like, it's so hard. But the thing, like, I have all these complaints about this. But the thing is like, her HEs are so beautiful. And once the characters start communicating and they stop thinking things about each other, like, it's so good. And like, the heroes always click in and they're like, I'm going to do everything to prove to you that I want you and that I love you. And I love that stuff. So that's what a good grovel does. That's absolutely what it does. The issues in this one, though, for me are because of the like self-shame that the heroine has. And anytime the hero doesn't specifically say something against it, she assumes he agrees. And like, yeah, that's really tough, but that's something that you just like build inside of you when you are insecure with your body and you think everyone sees it and everyone's commenting on it. Anytime someone doesn't disagree with it, like, you feel it. So I'm sure Kate C. Wells put in a lot of thought to how that is, but like, y'all, I'm just telling you, I don't get too shook by it. Like, I'm not like, oh God, I can't read it, because I am in a healthy mental place about how I look and feel and how I love myself. And I have been for a long time, like even before I started losing weight. It's why I was able to start losing weight, because I was okay with my body, whether it would change or not. Like, but that's me, and that's therapy, and that's my head. Not everyone's going to feel that way with this one, and I think there will be some people who like hate it and can't forgive the hero, even though, again, the hero never has an unkind thought about her body. He loves his mate's body from start to finish. He just doesn't say that because he doesn't know she needs to hear it, and he doesn't know that he needs to say anything about it. But that will be hard for some people, and they're going to hate him. So I'm telling you, if you have those feelings about yourself or are easily triggered by those, this may be one you need to pass. It just might be, because our heroine has some dark thoughts about her body, and like, it's tough. It's tough, because I don't like watching people say that about themselves. Like, I mean, nobody should. I hope you don't like watching people say that about themselves. So anyway, 4 stars for me is a 2.5. And of course, fat phobia and self body shaming as well. Okay, then I read another arc, and I'm gonna have to pass on this author now, and it makes me sad. It makes me sad, but it's not that I hate the books by this author, but I also am not getting anything out of them, and so it's time to move on. So I read Defying the Earl by Erica Ridley. This is another one in this, I think it's called Lords of London series, that she's doing with Darcy Burke, and they're coming out in kind of like rapid release. And they rely really heavily on different tropes, and they're supposed to be like really quick, fun little things. But for the life of me, I just can't connect with Erica Ridley's characters. Okay, this will be the 5th book by her I've read. I just don't connect with them, so I'm just gonna stop. I'm just gonna stop walking into them and stop trying to make it happen, because it ain't happening. But this one is a Guardian Ward romance, and it's a strange one. It's a strange one. Okay, so she's about to turn 21. She will then come into her inheritance, be able to be a self-supporting woman. It'll be great. She ends up getting a guardian who, through some rigmarole, I can't even remember why he's going to be her guardian or something to do with his his aunt can't look out for her, but like she's the one who's kind of been the chaperone and whatever. And he's only, I think, like 26. So this isn't like an age gap. This isn't a like barely is a forced proximity, because he only needs to be her guardian for 3 weeks. He's very study minded. He's very like taking care of his estates and everything. And so he barely even wants to like look at her because he doesn't want to be whatever. But of course, the first night they meet, he's supposed to meet his aunt and his new ward at this event. They end up kissing before they ever like know who each other is. And then he really puts up a wall because he's like, I'm not having feelings for my ward. I'm not going to get married. In fact, I need to find her a husband as quickly as possible, even though she's going to be a self-made woman in 3 weeks. She doesn't have to get married. He's like, oh, I'm going to find you a husband so that I can get you off my hands even quicker. So he wants to marry her off even quicker than 3 weeks. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. It made no sense to me. She gets really picked on by people in society. She doesn't have the greatest clothes. He gives her a glow up. He tells people to fuck off who are mean to her, and she loves him by the end. I didn't enjoy it. I gave it a 3.5 star because it was an arc. It was a 1.5 on the spice scale. There was a virgin heroine, grumpy sunshine, kind of forced proximity, guardian ward in the lamest way because he's not even that much older than her, and they barely live in the same house for more than 3 weeks. I was like, you are missing the point of a guardian ward. Why did you even make this a guardian ward if it's not an age gap and it's not like we're stuck in a house together? Like, come on. I'm angry. Okay, I'm angry. All right. So then I needed to do a reread of something because I was just irritated. I'd finished Faked and his curvy rejected mate and Defying the Earl, and they were all pretty disappointing. And I was sick when I was coming home from Pillager, and it was supposed to snow some more. So I was like, it's time to break the glass on the break in case of a rainy day. I don't know what it is, but the emergency glass on some of my audios that I've been saving. So when my favorite books who didn't have audios when they came out have audios now, I buy those audios and I save them for a rainy day or a sick day. And so it was time to reread Heartless. So I did. We don't really have to talk about Heartless because I've talked about it in 50 million videos since I read it, but I listened to the audio. The audio is everything that I wanted it to be. Cade was just as sexy hearing his voice in real time, and it was delightful. So 6-star reread, loved it. It was perfect. If you haven't read Heartless yet, I don't know why you like even watch my channel because that's all that I talk about. So there we go. Then I also did a reread of Grieved Loss. I had to annotate this for a patron. This is going to be shipping out to her soon. But this is book 3 in the Blondie Crime Syndicate. This is about Calla and Riker. So Calla is a single mom of 2. She has a like 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. Her husband was a police officer who died in the line of duty, or that's what she thinks happened anyway. He actually was secretly like working with the mafia, and he was a dirty cop, and he wasn't a great dad either. He basically had a family as a cover so that he would look like a wholesome police officer with a wife and 2.5 kids at home. And yeah, he wasn't the greatest dude. And then we have Riker, who is the torturer and kind of like fixer guy for the Blondie Crime Syndicate, and he has had his eye on Calla since he bumped into her when he was actually scoping out her husband because he was working with the Blondie Crime Syndicate, and when he was scoping out his wife and kids, he fell for Calla, and he's always had his eye on her, and even told I forgot what the dude's name was. I don't even know, whatever the guy's name was, that if you don't take good care of your wife, I'll take her from you. And the guy was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm serious. Your wife is too good for you. Take care of her. So he isn't the one who killed her husband because like he kind of knew, he's like, this dude is going to die someday. I don't need to step in, and I don't need to be the one who ends her husband and have to worry about her then like hating me because I would do that, right? So he doesn't, but he dies soon enough. And so He had died, and now it's been a year that Calla has been a widow, and Riker has decided that time's up and he's going to go get her. So he has prepared his home to be a paradise for her children. He has he has been paying off certain people to smooth his way, and he has bided his time, and now he's going to take his woman. And so he does. He basically kidnaps her, moves her and her children into his home, and goes about forcibly wooing her. We'll go with that. But it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. This series is bonkers, okay? It has lots and lots of trigger warnings to worry about and kinky things. So definitely be warned about that. Like, this one has an over-the-top anti-hero. There's some dubious consent. There's actually not a ton, because Calla is pretty attracted to him, but there is some dubious consent. I mean, obviously it's kidnapping, captive, so like there's that. But you'll see, he's so sweet with her kids, and the only time that he's very stern is when she just won't give in, and he needs to get a little bit forceful. But he uses his finger and tongue forcefully more than anything else. There's also some breeding kink. He's pierced. There's a little bit of impact play. But mostly he's very sweet to her. Like, this is the sweetest stalker kidnapper romance you'll probably ever read. Like, honestly, it really is. It is also horrifying because he takes away so much of her choices throughout this. Like, you're uncomfortable for it. But then he does these incredibly sweet things and you love him. So I don't love this quite as much as I did the very first time, because I think the first time the shock value is a lot higher, but I'm definitely glad my patron picked this and I loved revisiting this book. So I did bump it down to a 4-star. It's a 4 on the spice scale, but I still love this series, and it's bonkers. Maybe a series you want to check out for the Mafia Romance Readathon. All right, without further ado, the book that I finished, the last one we're going to talk about, is Grim and Barrett by Juliet Cross. The ARCs went out for this. They went out to her patrons as well. And I knew that I was going to just love this and have a wonderful time with this story. I mean, y'all know how obsessed I am with Juliet and her world, specifically the Stay a Spell world, and just how much I love the family she's created. And there's so many things that became really, really clear to me with this book. And they're things that I've been noticing through rereading these books, right? I've shared many times, you guys have seen these books pop up in countless videos, not only because I adore them so much, but because my patrons adore them, my friends adore them, and like I adore them. Like, I love rereading these books so much. I love the audiobooks. They bring me joy every time. And this series as a whole is like the happiest, most joyful series I've ever read. There's pretty minimal angst when you look at it as a whole, but it's just so heartwarming. Like, the family is very rarely the source of the angst. They're the source of home. They're the source of comfort. They're who you can turn to. And for our characters, who the Savoy sisters are a found family, which, you know, included some of our heroes before they were ever like romantically involved with a heroine. But when you like, really, Grim and Barrett made me reflect on every book in the series in some way. Not only because our beautiful cast of characters all shows up, right? Like, we have the triplets running around in here. We have Gareth and Livy, who are particularly important to this one. And we also have, who do we see the most? Sorry, Devraj is very important to this one too. Like, they're all there, and there's just no question about what they're going to help with and how they're going to be there to support them. And there is just so much love. Like, it's so beautiful. And I know that's not what everyone's looking for in their paranormal series. Like, I get it. And when I reflect back on how I first felt about Wolf Gone Wild and Don't Hex and Drive, because those were the two books that were out when I very first read a Juliet Cross, I had like barely ever spoken to her yet. Like, I didn't have the connection with her now. And I thought they were just cute. I was like, oh, this is cute. Not that spicy, not that dramatic, like, you know, and there's nothing wrong with those feelings, but it was just kind of like, oh, they're cool. But more and more, as honestly the years have went on, and as like people are looking for more angstier, spicier, like intense things, and those, I enjoy those as well, right? Like I do. There's something about the home that I feel when I pick up a Stay a Spell book, with the comfort and the love that I feel when I read them. I just keep saying that because those are the emotions that come up. And that's something that isn't going to be replaced easily. And I can just feel it in every story. And when I go back, like it wasn't too long ago, I just reread Wolf Gone Wild, because I had it given away my annotated copy and someone asked for another annotated copy. So I was like, oh, well, I'll have to annotate it again. Bummer. So I annotated it again. And from the very beginning, when Evie takes a chance on Mateo and Alpha to help them, she opens up the Savoy sisters to us, you know, and how their goal is always to help. It's never selfish. It's never greedy. It's never trying to get away with something. It's about helping. And each Savoy sister does that in her own way, whether on the what seems like a small scale, like helping Mateo leads to so much that happens later on, leads to our sisters having skin in the game in the werewolf drama and trying to help them, leads to, you know, Violet wanting to find a way to help them with that, leads to something that I thought of that just made me cry so much. Because if you've read Wolf Gone Wild, I know I'm going to rant about this, that's why I saved it to the end of the book. You can go, there's no other books to talk about but this one. But I wanted to reflect on this. There's a story that Mateo tells Evie about how he doesn't get to be around his dad because him and his dad are both alpha wolves, and their wolves like will attack each other. So even though their humans love each other, they can't really be around each other. And so he lost out on time with his dad, even though he lives long, like he will live long. He lost out on that. And with Nico, not able to be around his niece, not get to be around them because his wolf might come out and hurt them because they're human and he's not. And there was something that hit me when I was reading Grimm and Barrett, because we get to see Mateo and Evie's triplets, and one of their boys is obviously going to be an alpha. Like, it's really clear to see he'll be an alpha wolf. And it hit me that little moment that was mentioned all the way back there, because of the things that these witches have done, the changes they've made, Mateo and Alpha, they'll get to be around their children their whole lives because of the tattoo that Violet's able to give, because of the work that they've done to bring werewolves into society and are trying to do so that they can have a place at the table. They don't have to kick their son out at some point because he might hurt them. That's such a small thing, but like, there's so much love in this family, and there's so much connotations of the future, and there's so much hope. And I'm sorry, I'll bring it back to Grimm and Barrett, but like, I had that realization and I just wanted to share it with the people who love this world too. That this world was more about like just each story having its own like push of a plot, which I know people can critique that in the literary side all you want. I don't care. That's not what I'm here for. I'm always here for the feels. Like, that's what I'm here for, is the feels. And when I was in the pages of Grimm and Barrett and falling in love with Henry and Clara, who there is a rush in their relationship because they're already there. Like, they're already there. They're soulmates. It's clear. They both just have to like jump on it. it's about seeing where this family is at after these years and the changes they've made and the things they're doing, and seeing how their family is growing. Because yes, there are a lot of people getting pregnant and having babies in this. I know, and some people, that's just so not what they're looking for, and I'm like, that's fine. But that's what this book is. It's about this family that they've made not only like their town and their people better, but they're making the world better with goodness, with wanting people to be included, with justice, with fairness. And it's done in this sexy, fun, sweet way. But when you look at the big picture and I know it's fictional, but the fictional good that they're doing in their paranormal world, I have the biggest ball of light in my chest, and it makes me glow like Clara. And when you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's a part when Clara glows. And when I finished the book, that's what I felt like. I felt like I had a ball of light inside of me after finishing this, because it was just so sweet. And so, again, to go back to like close off about this book, there is still a dark-ish plot going on. Like the Henry and Clara part, this is not the conflict. It's not even like the climax of it. Like, they get together pretty quickly in this story. Like, I'll tell you that. We're not dragging it out anymore. We're not having angst about it. We just have to kind of lay our cards on the table, lay the tarot cards on the table maybe, and like explain things. There's some of Henry's past we still need to know. There's some pieces of Grimlock's that we still need to know. And there's some scary stuff that goes with it. But this book is so joyous all the way through. Like, on every page I was smiling. And by the time it was over, yes, I did not want it to be done. I didn't want it to be done. But I know that the Stay a Spell world is always there when I have one of those rainy days and need to revisit a book and I need to like love it again. It's still there. And Juliet just created a place that is literally a happy place. It's so beautiful and sweet and sexy and a little kinky when we need it, but it's all about sisterly love, found family, taking care of those around you, being generous, being kind, being nurturing. And those are such beautiful virtues. And I'm just so proud of my friend that she wrote this series. Like, it's so special. It's so special. And I'm so happy to have been here to see it as it was coming out. And I loved it. So if you can't tell, it was a 6-star read. I adored it. But I just want to tell you, like, go into this book looking for joy and to have a great time. Don't necessarily look to it for there's some super big revelations that have still been hiding. Like, again, there are still stuff that's getting, like, that's coming. But I just want you to just be in to have your heart be touched and be happy when you read it. Like, don't go looking for there's some, like, huge thing she's been hiding and I'm, like, waiting for this final revelation. Like, that's not what it is. It's about two people that, like, I wrote in my review for this, because I wrote my review right away. I was like, it's about running headlong with your arms wide open, jumping both feet into love. Like, not expecting anything from someone that they can't give you, not demanding anything that you've been missing, but just, that's my other half. I know that's my other half. There's just no question. We're together. It's here. And I think that's what we deserved from Henry and Clara. That's what Henry and Clara deserved. And it's beautiful. And it has all the historical romance references. And it lets us see all of our favorites. And it ends with an absolutely beautiful happily ever after, or happily continued. So we'll see what comes next and where we go next. But this is one of my favorite books of the year. Within the series, I will tell everyone. Resting Witchface is still my favorite of the series. That's my favorite. Jules and Reuben are my favorite, and they're really beautiful in this story too. But this was fantastic. It's still a 6-star. It's literally like slicing hairs. What's it called? Splitting hairs. But I mean, Resting Witchface is still my favorite. But it's not because like something's better than the other. It's because I like Jules and Reuben the best. But Henry and Clara were magnificent. So I'll wrap this up. See, I saved that for the end because I wanted to gush for a long time about my bays. So that book comes out on May 9th. It'll be available for pre-order soon. You need this happy, beautiful book on your series, but you do still have time to binge all the rest. They're on KU right now. All the audiobooks are available, so you definitely have time to catch up. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. If you made it all the way through these rambles, it means so much to me, and I'll see you in the next video.